On October 30th, 2022, the world lost an amazing musical artist and great friend to many. John McGale passed away on his way home from a show in Quebec on his birthday. In this episode, I've pieced together parts from a couple of interviews that I was fortunate to have done with John over the past few years. And we've also included a few personal tributes from friends of John who were with him along the way on his musical journey. From his humble beginnings in our mutual hometown of North Bay, Ontario, John managed to climb to heights that many of us have only managed to aspire to, rubbing shoulders with artists like Chuck Berry, Tommy Emmanuel, Les Paul, and a great many others. Of course, he is most known for the many years that he spent carrying the banner for the band Offenbach from Quebec. Rest in peace, John. Here is our tribute to you. It begins with John's response to my statement about North Bay being a hotbed for talent.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have always thought that. North Bay has a completely different way of looking at music, it seems. Kind of competitive in a way, but that's because there's not a lot of places to play at. So, people are always kind of stepping on each other's toes. But it's funny to think, because you get, two guys that put together a band, and the band is really, really hot, and everything's going great. Next time you talk to them, they're not talking to each other. They hate each other. And then 2 years later, they're back together again, and they're the greatest friends of all time. And it just goes on and on and on and on. Like that.
Yeah.
But the music that comes out of that little track is unbelievable.
No kidding. So, going way back, you were one of the few guys that I've known over the years who's really never done anything but music. I mean, I think I remember maybe you had the neighborhood paper out before I did.
That's right. I did deliver North Bay Nugget for 6 years, I believe. The time I was 9 till the time I was 15. That's because, my parents, we had 5 kids, and we looked for an allowance. If we wanted to buy anything on her, we had to raise the money ourselves. So I used to go out and cut grass or pick berries and sell them to the neighbors or, do all kinds of little things, shovel snow. And when the paper route came along, that was a great way to pick up them $5 or $6 a week, because that's about all you made.
Yeah, well, I definitely relate. I mean, we grew up right around the corner from each other. We weren't exactly in a rich neighborhood.
That's right.
So,
not that there is a whole other rich neighborhood.
Yeah, well, it's still kind of a small town, but so you went from playing with Axel in high school to a popular band from Sudbury, Nickel. Now, were you still in high school when you joined Nickel?
No, in grade 13, I was actually fortunate because I was always the youngest guy in my classroom. My birthday's in October, but they actually accepted me in the year where the cutoff date was September. So I was always the youngest kid in my class. And when I got to grade 13, I was only, I think, 17 years old.
17, yeah.
So in Ontario, grade 13 is optional. So I decided I would take, and I tried to get on the students council for organizing the dances and stuff, which I did. I won the election. I became the social convenor at Widdifield. And with that, I got to meet all the managers and the booking agents for bands like Rush and Triumph and Ian Thomas, because they would call my high school to try to book their bands. And so that way, before I actually set my foot out the door to hit the road and go out playing professionally, I already had a list of contacts. So that was a pretty smart move for a 16-year-old kid. I have to admit that.
No doubt.
I was on the ball when I did that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember...
So I ended up meeting the Nickel guys because I hired them. And when they were looking for a guitar player, they managed to find me, who... Actually, the first place I ever went when I hit the road was London. I moved to London when I was only 17 years old and still play the bars. I've been doing it for years, but nobody seemed to check ID back in those days. You could just walk in and play.
I know.
So I was 17 and I moved down to join Stephen Marlowe and a few friends of mine that had a band in London. And unfortunately, I couldn't join that band because it meant that there would be 5 members, and they didn't like 5-piece bands because they didn't make enough money. So they only wanted 4-piece bands. So I ended up playing with another band that was pretty crappy. and I wasn't with any of my friends, and I had no place to stay. So when Nickel called and said they were looking for a guitar player, I said, "Help! Rescue me!"
Yeah, well, that's the hard thing about being from a small town. I went through the same thing. And we'll be right back after this. I've got a mutual friend of both John McGale and myself on the line. Longtime mutual friend from North Bay, Ontario, Stephen Marlowe on the line. And Steve, what can you tell us about your personal relationship with John and how you guys first got together as musicians?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Tommy, for the opportunity here. If I sound a little shaky or whatever, it's because I'm still in shock and awe of the situation that my brother, Johnny McGale, passed away doing a gig, doing what he loved. He did what he loved to do. Tommy, John was a true musician, a minstrel. How can I put this? When you went to see John, he gave you a show. He gave you everything he had in it. He played from his heart, Tommy. John, didn't matter if there was one in the crowd or 100,000. You got what you got when you seen John, and it was professionalism. And, some people say, some people get an ego and everything like that. Well, John never had an ego. What you seen was self-confidence on stage. Yeah, he didn't have an ego. He treated everybody just equal, and like, what can I say? He was a brother to me. We go back to grade school, probably in the 60s. Me and John went to the same school, Sacred Heart School, which is just down the street from where you live, Tommy. I think it was that?
I was around the corner from Sacred Heart Catholic School yet. I was on Doran Avenue, just around the corner. Yeah, right, so you guys were buddies like in the 60s, and you started playing together not long after you met. Is that right?
That is true. We actually started playing when we were at Sacred Heart in the Hootenanny little club we had. Stayed after school, and John would be on his little acoustic guitar, and I'd have my bongos going, and we'd be singing Kumbaya and stuff like that. It was quite the time. And to make a long story short, I was playing with guys around town, actually Paul Pruno and Gordy McIntyre, Ronnie Boudreau, filling in with a group called Ichabod Crane. And what had happened was I introduced my brother Ronnie, who played bass for us, and Axel. What had happened was my brother Ronnie had taken a job, first job. They were going to do the graduation in his grade 8 class. And what happened is their drummer made an announcement that he was quitting. And I was upstairs doing my my homework or whatever, and I used to listen to them rehearse downstairs at my parents' house. And Ronnie came up, my brother Ron, and said, our drummer just quit. And we were just wondering if you could fill in for the gig. And I'd been listening to them, and they were tight. They were good. They sounded really, really good. So I said, yeah, I'll do the gig with you. And so I did the gig, went over really well, and they were always doing some top stuff. At the time it was Creedence and the Who, stuff like along that line. And the gig went really well, and everything clicked, and I ended up joining a band with them. And we formed the band Axel, and played all over town. We played northern Quebec. We toured, and yeah, that was the beginning of a long friendship.
You and John played together for years, and I'm trying to kind of pin it down in my mind. At some point, John kind of leapt ahead of the rest of us. Like he took off like a rocket while the rest of us were trying to figure out where the launching pad was.
That's right. Well, I'll tell you what happened was we had a little falling out. Who doesn't? Every band has their falling outs and that. But the reason for it was because me and John were tight. Me and John we did everything together. We built equipment, we built lighting systems. I even built him a talk box. I went and got an old Atlas horn and took the driver out of it, and so we were doing Joe Walsh, and we had the talk box, the whole 9 yards. So it was unbelievable. But what happened was, the band, we weren't progressing fast enough for John. Like John was our leader. I got to say that, because he came in with the songs for rehearsal and showed everybody their parts, and and he was moving along, and I guess we weren't moving fast enough for him. He wanted the guys to do vocals, backup, and that, and I guess we weren't cutting the mustard, I guess, as you can put it. So we had a falling out, and he quit the band. Well, we got together. There was me, my brother Ronnie, and Danny Trelevin, the other guitar player. And we sat down and we said, well, should we phone him and ask him to come back, or should we just leave it and see what happens? So we didn't bother calling him back. And that was the end with John, with Axel. We did continue on, but it was never the same. It was, John was the magic in the band, really, and yeah, so that's what happened with that. And then John went on to play with a band called Calico Silver. That was with Charlie McNamara, Mike Sullivan, and Ross Hamilton. And they ended up recording and doing very, very, very well. And John played with a couple other little groups around town, but then was asked to join a band called Nickel from Sudbury. And they were huge. They were on the same circuit as Triumph, Rush, top-notch entertainment. And the rest is history. He got a phone call to join Offenbach. He went down for rehearsal and joined the band, and the rest was history. He's been there ever since.
Yeah, he definitely carried the Offenbach banner with pride and dignity and vigor, that's for sure. If you could say anything to John today, Stephen, what would you say to John today?
Still fresh there, Tommy. I tell him I love him. Yeah, John was a brother to me. We were close. We were very, very close.
And we'll be right back after this. Once John arrived in Montreal and actually got an apartment there, while playing with the band Offenbach, it didn't take him long to get in with all the local Montreal artists and to meet some really top shelf players. And of course, he would combine his efforts with Breen LeBoeuf, who had been with Offenbach at the same time as John, and April Wine's Jerry Mercer on drums, and form the Buzz Band. The Buzz Band was somewhat successful and actually had captured the media attention from both the CBC and CTV, the two top media outlets in Canada at the time. And here is John McGale on lead vocals and guitar, along with Jerry Mercer and Breen LeBoeuf, the Buzz Band from their self-titled album, Touching Down.
Baby, I can hardly wait, coming home to see your smiling face. It's been so long that I've been away. It's nice to know I'm coming home to stay. I tried my hand at something new. 10,000 miles from you, where my new made plans fell through. Thought if you could chase away my blues. When this plane touches down, they don't mind to the world spinning round.
I'm here with mutual friend of mine and John McGale's, Ross Hamilton. Ross was one of the early drummers that played with John. Welcome, Ross. What can you tell us about how you first met John and your experiences playing with John?
Good morning, Tom. Yes, I first knew of John McGale from the band Axel, and I was a big fan of that band. They were really awesome, playing the most difficult tunes for anybody, never mind 14 or 15-year-olds. But I was lucky enough that he had left that band and was starting a new band, and I auditioned for it, and surprisingly was accepted, and I was really flattered by that, actually. So that was probably in around the 73, 74 time frame. I think I was in 16 years old or something like that, and he was the same age as me. And we hit it off really well right from the get-go. So we were practicing with this new band. We had got probably 4 or 5 members in it. And when he decided he needed to change the bass player out, so we auditioned, and we got Charlie McNamara showed up. So we liked Charlie instantly. I mean, he was probably 8 years our senior. He played professionally and was obviously very good. And so we offered him the job, and he turned around and said, "Well, how about you guys just come and join my band instead?" Meaning me and John. So he had a band with Michael Sullivan. Actually, it was just the two of them. And they were basically writing original tunes, and they wanted to start a band that was all original. And I can see today why John really jumped at that. You know, the ability to write your own songs, arrange your own songs. And at the time, I was frankly a little bit apprehensive because trying to get work as a band that plays all original tunes, not an easy task. But anyway, John was determined, and I went along. So we started practicing, and the tunes were just coming together really quickly. And even though they were originals, and we would practice it at Charlie's place, then we thought, well, Charlie and Mike Sullivan, both did this professionally for a living, for at least a good part of their living, if not all of their living. So we had to get this band up and running pretty quick. So what we ended up doing was saying, well, let's go practice at the Blue Spruce Hotel. Nobody will know who we are. We can go up there incognito and practice our shtick, while getting paid a little bit. So we went up there, and there was the usual, 5 to 10 people on a Saturday night, and we practiced, and we started getting pretty good. And then the owner realized that Mike, Charlie, and John were quite popular in the music scene, entertainment scene of North Bay. So instead of just putting the band's name, Calico Silver, which nobody knew, he put our names in the ad in the North Bay paper. Well, the next weekend, the Blue Spruce went from, the 5 to 10 people to a full house. And it was hopping. And that was the beginning of the revival of the Blue Spruce, as well as the start of Calico Silver. And I think at that time, we had signed a contract for every weekend for either 6 months or a year, and played there and just had a fabulous time. And from there, it was really good for both of us, because now we're making money at what we love to do. And we decided that, I needed an apartment to live in. He was still going to school at that point. I'm not even clear of when we did it, but we actually went down and rented a couple apartments that I knew about previously that the owner was not renting anymore because he had so much trouble with previous tenants. So we went to him and convinced him that we were different and that he should rent the apartments to us. And that place was the place that became the Ritz. And we were definitely different than the previous problem tenants. We were much louder.
I went to a party or two at the Ritz, yeah.
Yeah, it was quite a place. I mean, it was, John was really artistic in every way. We cleaned up those two apartments. They were pretty sad shape. And our doors were open all the time. People were stopping by all the time. Music was flowing all the time. He could cook up a storm, mostly chili, comfort foods, but they were absolutely delicious. And then Michael Sullivan would stop by and drop off cartons of records. And John would just devour this stuff. On top of every week, John bought no less than 5 and probably closer to 10 albums. It was like, this is all we did. We'd go down to the music store, check out the equipment, go down to the record store, check out the albums, buy albums, listen to music, go around, hear all the good bands when we weren't playing. And it was really a time for us too. So we formed a really good bond back then. We were like brothers, frankly. The friendship that we had back then was just starting to develop again in terms of, seeing one another after so long. And it just felt so good.
And you remained friends. You remained friends through the years. It is so sad that John is no longer with us. If you had the opportunity to say anything to John today, what would you say to John today, Ross?
I would say, boy, John, thanks for all the great memories from our youth, the expansion of my musical knowledge and enjoyment, and a lasting friendship for all these years that I really look forward to, enjoying further. And rest in peace until we come to join you. All right.
I do remember the Calico Silver Band up in North Bay featuring John McGale along with Ross Hamilton on drums, Charlie McNamara on bass, and Michael Sullivan on guitar. They were actually really awesome. Now here is another of my favorite buzz band favorites, and I believe this is one of John McGale's favorites from that era as well, Rising Up. It's unfortunate that I don't have any Calico Silver music to play right now. However, I do know that one of John McGale's personal favorites from his time with the Buzz Band is Rising Up. Here it is, once again from the Buzz Band album, Rising Up.
Rising up, out of the hole, learning to live with what I can't control. Rising up, I've had some trouble, maybe more than my share. I'm coming up for air. What you don't use, you lose. What you don't choose, honey, refuse. These are lessons that I learned the hard way.
I'm here with Michelle Laundrie, another mutual friend of John McGale and fellow musician. Michelle was the last full-time drummer with Offenbach. And Michelle, why don't you tell us about your time as a friend and musician with John?
Well, I started out with John when I was 18 or 19 years old, and John actually hired me first as a guitar tech for him, and then by the same token as an entire backline tech for the whole band. And I started working with him when it was, just 18 or 19, around 2004, I think it was. And through the years, we were working together as he's my boss and I'm the tech working for him and stuff. But it never felt heavy. It was always a friendly relationship, and it was fun to be able to bounce ideas off, one another. And at the same time I was working for him as a tech, he hired me in his blues band called the John McGale Blues Force with Widdifield on bass. And that band was killer, man. It was a great little trio. What was really fun about that band is we had what we called the School of Fish mentality, where one guy goes one way and everybody follows, but nobody knows why, but we just instinctively go with it, and we knew each other like the back of our own hands, and we just knew where each guy was going to go and what to do, and it was so tight, and it was a great little band. And through the years of working with that band and working with John as a guitar tech, and then eventually graduating to a tour manager as well with Offenbach and stuff, our drummer with Offenbach at that point left and decided he wanted to pursue other ventures. And at first, I didn't want to pounce on it, but I waited a few weeks, maybe about a month, before I told John. I said, John, we have a really good working relationship, and if you want, I'd like to try out for the Offenbach spot. And he looked at me and he said, man, I was expecting you to tell me this like the night of. You waited a while, but yeah, absolutely, you can get the gig, and we'll give you a tryout and see what happens. And that ended up being in 2011 and 2012, we recorded the last Offenbach record, which was called The Renaissance, which really was a great album. It took a long time to make, but it was a really good album. We really had good sounds for, the drums and the bass. And then John went off to a friend's recording studio in North Bay. I think it's Studio Patch Bay, it's called. And he recorded all of his guitars, and then we waited around for some lyrics that really made sense for the Offenbach vibe. And that was just, once it came out, it was really, really great. And I'd been the drummer with him ever since. The album was in waiting until, we started working on it in 2012. And then in 2018, it finally came out. But all between those 2 points, we've been working together as a band with Offenbach doing shows everywhere. And it was just great. What can I say about John that hasn't been said already? I mean, the guy's a monster guitar player. He really knows his way around a fretboard. I really always loved the way he, he never played a bad note. I mean, even the bad notes that he did play, he found a way to make it work, and it always sounded great. He's just a monster player. But on top of everything else, he's really a really nice guy. He's very generous with his time, and he's very patient with the new guys. I mean, I was 18 or 19. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but he took me under his wing and, became my boss, but also a mentor and a friend and kind of a father figure or a big brother kind of figure, helping me along. And it was really, really great. What else can you say? I mean, all I can say really is I'm going to miss him like crazy, because that guy was amazing.
He certainly was an awesome talent, and his legacy will live on, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. Now, it's a very sad time for all of us, and we're all going to miss him a lot. If you could say anything to John today, Michelle, what would you say?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I'm going to say, John, I love you, because the guy gave me a career. I mean, there's no if, and, or but about it. If it wasn't for him taking me on, I don't think I would have had the success in my musical career as I had or I have now. And, so first and foremost, I want to say thank you and I love you. But mostly I want to say thank you for your trust in me for all those years of making mistakes and working it out and, building the learning curve and trying to beat the learning curve as fast as I could to make sure that I was a professional musician along the side of him and guys like Reed the Best and all that. And, it's just an amazing opportunity. So thank you, and thank you for your trust. That's all I can really say. And, other than that, I will forever miss you.
The following is from the last conversation that I had with John McGale on this podcast. This was right after vaccines were introduced to combat COVID. Last time, over a year ago, we did this, right? Yeah, we were talking about how we were hoping deep down that this might be a boost for the music business because you don't know what you got till it's gone. Maybe you'll pay for tickets now. Maybe you won't ask for a comp, or to be put on a guest list. Maybe people are going to be happy to celebrate music with us again like they did in the Roaring 20s.
Yeah, but the only problem is the ticket prices are so ridiculous now. I mean, I was so fortunate to be, in my 20s when I moved to Montreal the first time, because you could go and see AC/DC for $5, and then Genesis the next weekend, and then Supertramp, and then all these guys. The ticket prices were $5, $4.50, $5, $6. That's what it cost to go see shows at the Forum virtually every week, because Offenbach being the most popular French Quebecois band actually in North America. I mean, singing in French rock and roll music, were the only ones basically, that did it, especially back in the 80s. So we would only do 20 or 30 shows a year, which meant I had quite a bit of time off. And often these concerts would be on a Wednesday or a Thursday night. You go see Deep Purple with Dream Theater as the opening act. It was amazing. And I was just talking to Michel Cousson earlier today. We were talking about when the G3 came to Montreal. Michel Cousson, the guitarist from UZEB, he was doing the opening act, and Robert Fripp was also there. It was really something to see. Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, who else was there? I forget. For like $6.
Yeah, sounds way awesome either way. But
now it's $1,200 to go see a concert.
Yeah, I know, but you know what? It is what it is. I think things will level out a little bit once we can increase capacity. So again, once we've got enough people on board, getting vaccinated, and we do have true herd immunity, then you can lift some of the safety restrictions even further. We might not have to wear masks. We might not have to physical distance. We might have to get a booster shot every year. But you know what? I'm in. Whatever it takes to get back to some sort of normal. I don't know if you remember way back in the day, when you had first moved to Montreal to join Offenbach, and I was off in Toronto trying to make my own dreams come true, we would often end up at home at the same time in North Bay for Christmas and various other occasions.
Mm-hmm.
We used to share a cab as we were bar hopping way back then.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
That's right.
We had a lot of fun.
Nobody
ever got totally loaded. Nobody got beat up. It was just good times. And
it sure was, man. And the bands used to play 5 sets up here in North Bay, and you had a band at the St. Regis, you had a band at Cortina's, you had a band at the Elba Lounge, you had a band at the Commodore. It was amazing. The Portage, the Blue Spruce, Parkview, all these places that had music. I mean, virtually any day of the week you could go out and see a band. It was great.
Yeah, and some of the legendary acts that passed through. Man, I mean, the St. Regis, so many.
Oh, yes, of course.
The Blue Spruce, it was a Stampeder's first gig in Ontario.
Uh-huh. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And Jeff Healy played a number of times at the Parkview.
Yeah. Some legendary acts. Max Webster, we had Triumph at the St. Regis, Thundermug.
When Triumph played at the St. Regis, they saw the truck that we had with Axel. Not Axel, with Nickel. When I was playing with the band Nickel from Sudbury, we had a really nice truck. And Triumph came the week after us. So they saw us when we were leaving. And they really, really liked our truck. So when they found out that the band was breaking up, they bought our truck. We sold our touring truck to Rick Emmett and the boys.
Wow, that was that worked out for everybody. That's synergy, I guess. I should just let the folks know that before we started recording this episode, we agreed to have a virtual beer together. So
yes, we did, and I've been looking at mine, looking at the suds dripping over the side of the glass, going, "When is he going to stop yapping like that?"
So I'm drinking the cheap stuff. I've got a Carling Lager here. And John has got the Primo. Tell him what you got.
I've got the Sapporo from Japan. I love it. First time I ever had a Sapporo. Hold on here. One second. Okay. Let me join you. Right. Here we go.
All right. Cheers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy.
That's the way you do it, Tommy. That's the way you do it.
That's the way you do it. And we'll be right back after this. Well, since I've asked everyone else who so graciously agreed to be a part of this tribute to John what they would say if they had one more opportunity to speak with John, here's what I would say. I would say, John, thank you. Thank you for being such a wonderful inspiration to me and all the other kids in the neighborhood by showing us that if you wanted to pick up a guitar and sing in the band, you could do it. Thank you for being such a wonderful inspiration to everyone that you came into contact with. Thank you for the music. Thank you for the buzz. Thank you, John, for being you. Now here, to end off this tribute, I've chosen an Offenbach classic, Aïe Aïe. And this because it shows a side of John McGale that many of you may not have been aware of. In this song, John plays an absolutely blistering, wonderful saxophone solo. It also bears mention that the lead vocal on this song is from Jerry Boulez, the original lead singer in Offenbach, who welcomed John McGale many years ago into the band and passed away many years before John did. And all these years later, John proudly carried the Offenbach banner in his name. And I'm quite sure that Jerry and John are now jamming among the stars. Rest in peace, John McGale. We all love you. Tommy Solo's Famous Friends is a one-man production, meaning that I've done all the work, including recording, editing, guest acquisition, etc. The theme song for Tommy Solo's Famous Friends is a clip from my original composition, The Burn. All rights reserved. And hey, if you like the show, why not help us out, buy me a coffee, subscribe, hit the like button, and until next time, cheers.